Hi guys, just one little factor here before we start this video here today. If for any reason my YouTube channel gets taken down, which could happen because we're challenging the deep state and we're challenging the powers behind the scenes. But if it does get taken down, I'm going to share the link below here. We have a website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and you can subscribe on there to our updates and our newsletters, etc., that are being produced by Lee Hemington. But you'll be able to keep in touch with what's going on. So at the moment, everything is nice and smooth. But if for any reason we get taken down, you simply go to my website, drcharlieward.co.uk, and register there, and you'll get all the information as to where we are or where you can view our videos.
On a mass consciousness level, we haven't quite arrived at stabilized 5D because we are still transitioning. But there is no turning back. So just saying, so honoured to bring us all together. It's absolutely amazing. And obviously we've been doing these round tables, these divine feminine round tables, and Charlie and the boys have been doing these, getting the guys together, and then me and Laura have been invited, Laura Ward. And it's just so exciting now to bring us all together, and like we're so loved. Like each of us in this round table are so phenomenally loved. It's amazing. And I was just saying to Charlie that we went to a Save the Children march on Saturday, and so many people came up to us and they were like, hi Jen, hi Liam, please get up on the mic and talk and everything. And they were like, how do you know us? And most of them knew us through Magenta Pixie and through Charlie and Charlie, and they mentioned Laura as well. And everyone was saying how honestly, guys, I wish you were all there just to hear. And I was like, Liam, it makes it all worth it. When you have days like that, it really does make it worth it, because everyone's just like, you are helping us so much. You'll never ever realize, you know, the role that you lot are all playing for all of us, because it's having a ripple effect. So people that are listening to us are getting that calm energy, and they're getting that massive overview, and then they can then sort of like regurgitate that and send those ripples out into their own families. Yes. So it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So well done, everyone. Like, round of applause. Oh my God. So I've got a few topics that I'd love to discuss. I just want to quickly go around. Is there anything pertinent that you would particularly like to discuss? Magenta Pixie, I'll throw around to all of us. Or Charlie, what were you going to say?
There's something that's happened today that has been a big eye-opener.
Oh, yeah.
For people that are resting, let's put it that way. I'll give you the example in Spain. The police have found out that their money has disappeared out of the pension fund. So they've conveniently blamed it on King Juan Carlos, because he got arrested 3 weeks ago and has gone to Gitmo. So they've gone, oh, he stole it. You can bet your life he didn't. You can bet your life the government has stolen the money out of the pension fund. And then I sat back and I thought about it. And the police are basically working half shifts. They're working from the police station. They're not going out because they're upset that their pension has been taken. And then I start just thinking, meditating, praying, understanding. And then I think, I can see what's happening. The police will stand down in every one of our countries. And then the National Guard will come in, and the Nasara for the transition.
Ooh.
And then the governments will stand down, and then the new governments will rise, led by a leader of Nasara Jasara. And of course, the leaders will say, we'll replace your pensions. So they'll be embraced by everybody, but without shock and fear and panic. And as I saw it transitioning today, as the police stand down, and they're sort of saying, well, if the police stand down, then the National Guard will have to take over. I just went, Wow, here we go. So when the National Guard come in, then you know that the announcement will be imminent for Nasara and Jassara. And then it will just flow. You can see it flowing. That when they announce it, then the government will be found guilty of stealing everybody's pension, which we know they've done for years. We know in England that all the pension funds have been robbed, raped, and pillaged. It's the same worldwide. That'll be, they launch this new government for Europe in Jassara, or the rest of the world Jassara, but America Nasara. Whoever is leading that, their first thing will be to replace the old people's pensions. So suddenly it's embracing. And that's how I saw it today. And it was so clear, it smacked me in the face like a wet rag.
Wow. Charlie Freak, have you got anything you'd like to say about that?
Well, normally I'm known for the meditation, but I got but it wasn't meditation. It was actually shared with me, and actually I had a very eye-opening conversation yesterday, and basically I can tell you that the Q team, they are all in with Mr. Charlie Ward. So I want everyone to know that right now, Charlie is as golden as can be. So they are all in. So and what Charlie is saying is absolutely so. He's sort of you sort of touched on that before, Charlie, as well. Earlier, many weeks ago, that was the kind of thing that would happen. And by the way, I live in Mexico, and you know, the same people that run Mexico are the same people that run Spain. The Spaniards are the higher class in Mexico. They have all the positions of power here, and all they do is they embezzle money. And it's so funny in Mexico, when you get on any kind of public transport, it's very, very funny and sad at the same time, because everywhere you go on the sides of the trains, there's pictures of these politicians that have absconded with huge amounts of taxpayers' money. So it's just commonplace here in Mexico. It's commonplace, and it always has, as Charlie was saying. And when we get into the show full today, the one thing that I wanted to bring was just this message, and I'm sure that Charlie has received this as well. And that is that there is going to be money upon monies available. I'm looking with Liam. I'm looking at 5 other bases here, and you are all going to be prime targets for access to these funds. What they're talking forward is providing lots of financial assistance for major projects of goodliness and godliness, and that's how this is going to play out. So we, Charlie and I were talking with Michael Tellinger. I had another connection with Michael, and so there's another show different from what we did. But Michael Tellinger is another that is going looked at and be given access to all of these funds. So, and I look at your faces and the things that you guys can do with some funds, the vision, the passion, the love, and the leadership that each of you possess. It's just and this is what Charlie's been saying for the last 6 weeks. It's golden right now. We need to all of us just connect to this and then shine this knowingness of what's coming out and help all of these people that are suffering in these other countries that are in lock. And because the days that are coming they truly are golden. And the faces I'm looking at, you're going to be the leaders of a lot of these massive projects to turn this world around. So it's very exciting, folks.
That's wonderful, Charlie. Just hearing you speak is so inspiring, and you're just giving hope to so many people, as are you, Charlie, as are you, Magenta, as are you, Laura. And I really am so honoured to be spending this time with you all. I really, really hope that you know that. And just wondering, Magenta, do you have anything to speak about? Have you received any messages from the Nine about Jasara?
Yes, Jasara, not recently though. I did a video on Jasara, well, it was Nasara actually.
Yeah.
I think, you know, the financial stuff kind of goes over my head. I'm really not there with money. It's just so not my mission. The two Charlies, obviously, especially Charlie Ward, are obviously the experts in that area. But what I would like to ask Charlie Ward, because of his knowledge in the financial system, I'd like to tell you what the Nine have said. What they've actually said, and they've been saying this for many years to me, that there will be an economic reset, a complete restructuring, and that what will actually occur on this planet is very, very similar to the Nasara document or the Nasara plan, but it won't be exactly as it's presented. There'll be a few little differences, something new, but that it's basically an inevitability at some point in our not too distant future timeline. Would you sort of agree with that? So it's not like Nasara exactly, you know, if you find the form online and you read what Nasara is, it's not exactly in sync with that, but it's very close, is what they're telling me.
I totally 100% agree with you on that. It was written originally in 1962. It's been edited over the years. It was prepared for John F. Kennedy, and it was prepared also before September the 11th. So it's been edited. Now, you and I both know, Magenta, back in 1962, they were the real good hippie days before Jem was alive. I mean, those hippies were real hippies. I mean, they smoked stuff that would take you to the moon and back. So it was written in those days. It's been rewritten. And I'll tell you right now, the interpretation of it will be different from what's written. We know that. But I'm very happy to tell you we're going to move out of Charlie's world of money into Magenta's world of beauty and humanity, which is a far better world, because the world of money that I've lived in is a filthy, dirty, disgusting world. And I'm looking forward to joining your world.
Oh, that's really lovely. And you often speak about that, Charlie, don't you? About your insiders, that there is going to be a financial reset, and that feels like it's in alignment with Magenta's messages as well.
100% true. The whole coronavirus, the vaccines, the 5G, the riots, the Black Lives Matter, the alien invasions, they're all part of a smokescreen to cover up the global financial reset. And in the process of that reset, when you reset the world's economy and you refinance the world, what you need to do is remove everything that's evil out of it.
Mm.
So the cabals, the pedophile gangs, the trafficking gangs, etc., that needs to be removed so people can enjoy the world that we're going to come into. But I was told 6 years ago about the reset. Then I was reminded 2 years ago, and then in December they said we're ready to go. So I was told it was going to happen well in advance. And they told me there'd be smoke screens and everything. And that I was also told that the governments around the world would their mandate was to and when you look at it through those eyes, you say, well, they haven't done a bad job.
No, they've done quite well on that, actually.
Yeah.
So before we hear from Laura, I just want to say one little thing. I had a dream about our beloved Donald Trump a few weeks ago, and he was in my living room. He just like appeared in my living room, and he said to me, he's like, Jen, there are a lot of things for us to discuss, but the most important thing that we must discuss is the quantum financial system. I was like, really? What about the children? He's like, nope, it's the quantum financial system is the big thing. So I thought that was quite interesting, because it's like you, Magenta, it goes over my head. I don't even really register it all. And it was like, oh, okay, Donald, we'll roll with that. So I'd love to hear Laura. You're such a wise woman. Have you got anything to say about that?
Yes, I'm very much with both of you. A lot of that goes over my head. And I'm the questions that I know a lot of people have that might not necessarily be my own questions that I would love to draw attention to. About how they're, processing all this. There's a lot of lack of trust in Trump and Q, and a lot of that is because of the way the media spins it and the targeting on all of this. But just to dispel some falsities so that people can see there's a vast difference between the Jassara Nasara and the New World Order plan, which has a lot of similarities connected to like a cashless society, and where people are having a really hard time reading the signs and not sure what indications are in our favor or what indications we're seeing that are not in our favor. And particularly something that stood out today is, I don't know, I haven't been able to fully vet it or deeply dig into it, but that a law was passed in Australia that if victims speak out against abuses that they've endured, that they will be jailed and fined, and if any media and it's just something that I just saw today. And I think there's a lot of questions as to how this showdown that we're in, how we're going to take down those forces as they're literally putting laws into place and making it very, very difficult to unwind from, some of this. And yeah, just how to help people navigate these different forces, the dark forces versus the liberating forces, to, like you said, Charlie, to give us, the future that we deserve. And how difficult it is to read right now, and the confusion that it's causing is making it very difficult for people to have focused intent. They're not sure what to support. And of course, it comes back to us as a humanity, as human and, as individuals to do our inner work. But yeah, the more clarifying it can be, the better, because I know from a lot of the feedback I've been getting in comments, no matter what one shares, no matter how positive, just knocking it down for this reason or that reason, because of the red flags or something that indicates to them that, hey, Trump is just one of them. So just to clarify for those kind of people, so that, we can answer some of those questions, so they can live in more clarity about this. Because if anybody knows the truth on these matters, it's you guys. And I know they've already gravitated to you, a lot of people that already support this, but yeah, I guess the ones that are deeply skeptical, how we can help them to see more evidence or more reassurance of the positive agenda that's unfolding here.
Did you want to respond to that, Charlie Freak?
Yeah, this is I've talked to Charlie about this as well, and Charlie has echoed my sentiments, and it's just this is very, very important for everyone. One of the things that's happened for the last 100 years, when you live in lies, it tears you up inside, because what exists, and it's the works of the hands of man that cause all of the obfuscation to the natural justice and the natural truth that exists. And all we ever really have to do is just literally let go of all of our concerns and worries and doubts, get out of that dime brain, that left brain, and just trust. And it's really those words. And I just want to and try to give you some perspective as to what's going on and why it's continuing, why this is continuing. So again, these three words are trust, and truth, because that's what's been lost. God has been taken out of the equation for, and whatever anyone wants to call the creator, that's totally fine. But the creator has been taken out of the equation. What we've lost is this common sense and this commonplace trust. So we just, for thousands and tens of thousands and probably millions of years going around the wheel, we have always kind of just trusted in the way things are, because nature, really, if you take a step back and just observe things, it's perfection. It is stunning perfection, and it's all connected. And then when you begin to research some of these ancient documents, you sort of see that we human beings are like the pinnacle of God's creation, and that the genius that's inside of our bodies, and especially inside of this head, and then especially inside of this mind, is staggering beyond description. So that's all been taken away by this this smokescreen of modern science. So they haven't done anything. They haven't really discovered much of anything, and haven't really done much of anything. And yet we've been told to just pray to modern science. Modern science is going to really take off. I mean, we're literally weeks away from some of the stuff coming out, and it's going to blow people's minds, because there's two worlds, there's two realms, and where we're going to be drawing from is this higher realm, instead of always pulling up like those rats did, always pulling up underneath the ground, the rat energy, and we're going to start pulling that Tiffany blue heavenly energy for all of these ideas. So why? So first off, we have to be able to trust there is a creator. Then trust is the beam, the great beam that holds the weight of the world. So that's Atlas. We have Atlas, 33rd vertebrae, that holds the world, which is our magical head, our magical mind. And so we have that as well within us. And then when we trust that we can take the load off of Fanny, take the load off of us, take the weight off of us having to fix everything and be responsible for everything and try to know everything and try to make the right decisions, and just hand it to somebody who built all of this, created all of this, created you, is in connection with everyone and all on high, then boy, our life just so easier. So that's the trust in the trust, which is the shoulders, the weight, the strength of this world, which is, God's strength, or the greater strength. And then we get truth, because when we let go, then everything that is, which is the air, or what I call the ether, Nikola Tesla called the ether, then the Akashic records, they just flow to us. The only reason why we don't know things or don't remember our own history or past going around again is because we live in the left brain. That's fear. When you have fear, you can't remember anything. Whatever somebody tells you 10 minutes ago in a state of fear, it'll be gone in 2 minutes, and you will not remember anything. And so the other aspect of life that is just really, really fascinating is that we spend all of our life living in the past and the future by the past. And the thing that's so funny is that because we live in fear so much of the time, that's all you're observing in your past. So your recollection of what happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 2 days ago, it's tainted. It's tainted with fear. That's why they do what they do. That's why they do. Their greatest weapon is the ego of the left. It does most of the job for them. So all they have to do is create fear, and then our left brain ego does the rest. So when we learn to let go, and then we just trust that things are going to get better. Trust in the plan. That's why they say trust in the plan. That's why every post is always referencing God and trust them. We have to get back to this knowingness that we are the pinnacle of God's creation, that we are supported by the trees, by the airs and the lakes and the stream. Everything loves us. Everything is working for us. So trust. So, and then one quick point, and I'll throw it back over to you. So you guys remember that great Clint Eastwood movie from the 70s? And it just came to me, much like Jen was saying, just came to me kind of like through a meditation. It's called High Plains Drifter. And it's about, retribution. The sheriff or the marshal comes back, and because he is brutally whipped to death by these hired guns. And the reason that the town did it is because the marshal had found out that all of their gold reserves actually were not on their land or property, but it was on federal territory, and that he was simply going to make the federal authorities aware of this. And so they decided, because they had a pretty good life, to hire these people to kill him. And everyone in the town voted yay, and they all stood by and watched it. So to share, as hard as this might be to hear for some people, is that Australia, which has been so disconnected from the truth, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. New Zealand, so far away and so disconnected from truth and reality. South Africa, the same kind of thing. These are cultures, beautiful people, beautiful histories, but so disconnected with reality, so inured by the middle class and possessions and, you know, looking good and TVs. And I mean, that's okay. We've all been there. We've all bought into that great distraction. But there's part of this message that this retribution in that town in the movie High Plains Drifter was for the townspeople, that they had to learn a lesson before anything could move forward. And that's kind of, it might be hard for people to hear, but it's the truth. Part of what's happening here is that we need to learn from our mistakes. And so I pass it over to Charlie. Why are things so bad there? Because you have stood by the most and allowed the worst to occur in those areas. And now that is playing out for you. And guaranteed, no one, you're not going to be harmed. Your kids are not going to be taken away. They're not going to be vaccinated. No. But the scare part of this is kind of, you made it. You allowed this to exist. You have backed away and allowed these demons to do whatever they want, especially you think New Zealand. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so there's a lesson to be learned here. Sorry about the length, guys, and Charlie, over to you and then everyone else.
I was just going to make a point because you just talked about New Zealand and Australia, and they have the answer right in front of them. If you go back to the Maoris and the Aborigines, you'll find truth. Go back to your roots. It's right in front of you. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't need to go to another country. You've got the answers in front of you. Go back to native truth. Also, lovely to meet you, Laura. Real privilege.
Wonderful to be with you. Thank you so much, Charles.
There's one thing. The one thing I wanted to make a point on is that Donald Trump will not invade any country. He's going to point out what's evil in every country. And we're moving from darkness into light. And it's very important that when we get into the light, we recognize what's dark, so that we don't vote into power what's dark again. So he'll show us, whilst we're coming through the darkness, exactly what's evil. Now, you might say, well, we know it already. No, you don't. You're still calling Trump an arsehole. You're picking on him, saying he's a terrible man. Hang on, he's not. He's exposing what's evil in every single country. Dead easy in America, because it's nearly all Democrat states that are evil, because they're run by evil people. They're doing all the wrong things. That's not to say there aren't evil, but them out too. The next elections will have nothing to do with Democrat and Republican. They'll have nothing to do with Conservative or Labour. It'll be between darkness and light, truth and lies. That's where we're moving to.
I'm using you, abusing me, but I'm shooting through. You're losing me, I'm using you, abusing.
That's absolutely right. Magenta, what would you
I
like?
just wanted to respond to what the question that Laura was asking. It's really difficult, and I've had people say the same thing. You know, we've got all these people saying, all of us are saying, everything is great and there's this wonderful inevitability and Trump's going to win the election and we're going to rise in our power and all those things. And then they see all these laws that are being written and everyone's full of fear and masks are being bought in secondary schools and this sort of thing. And everyone is afraid. And one technique, which is a different perspective of what Charlie has said, Charlie Freak, you know, about the trust. It's so important. Kind of looking forward into when you're in that left brain or that third dimension, into the unknown. So that is what is so fearful. But all of us, we have, and those starseeds that have the same viewpoint as us, they can see, they have some idea of where we are going. And if you do see really clearly where we are going and what the outcome is, one thing you can do, and I think this is really for those with insight, it's not going to be so easy for those in the left brain, in the 3D, to be able to do it. But what you can do is look forward, see the outcome, see the inevitability of the Great Awakening and everything that goes with it, and then turn it all around so that you're standing from the perspective that it's already happened. And then look back and then see where you have gone. And then you will not have any fear, because you're already in the place where it's already happened. So you can sit there and think, well, this is wonderful, this is great, this is fantastic, look at the unity, look at the love, look at my family, all these awful things that they wanted to do and they planned to do and they could have done, but they didn't do it. They didn't succeed. Then you bring yourself back again with that knowing and think, okay, I'm now going through the motions as this story plays out, but I know the outcome. And that's a really, really good way of manifesting that outcome. The other thing I'd like to say in response to Charlie Ward mentioned a quantum financial system. Again, I have no understanding of what this is. It goes right over my head. But what the 9 have been saying to me for a long time is a quantum reality that we are going into. And that quantum reality is falling into this 3rd dimensional, actual physical world. And that there is quantum technology involved and it's being used now. Now, I presume the financial system as a living system is reflecting all of those higher dimensional systems. So I would love to know what the quantum financial system is. You don't have to answer that now, Charlie. Perhaps you and I could do a chat, the 2 of us sometime. But
oh, yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like anytime I read something bad, I'm so used to being able to spin it using the left brain and seeing it from a higher perspective. And I saw that article that you're on about, Laura, and it's just, I just feel like they're just blatantly trying to wake people up. And I know from my own experience that any rules that the system's tried to enforce on me, every single time I've found my way around it, and I've come out unscathed. So I know that other people have that ability too. And Charles Ward, I just want to say, I met a rocket scientist in Glastonbury Festival, and I told him about Q and Trump, and he didn't have a clue. He's very close-minded, so don't believe the hype on the rocket scientist.
That's
all, yeah.
Yes, Laura.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'm so glad to be with all of you. And I love where this conversation is going, because we are powerful creative beings, and being is not a creative energy at all. That's what it gets siphoned. That's what gets infected with propaganda and all these different things that we don't want to see ends up overtaking us. And the very fear of it creates a reality over it, or feeds that reality, and the belief in it creates and feeds that reality. And as creative beings, when we're connected to our creative imagination and we're generating energies into the world, we impact the collective consciousness, and those that aren't standing in the way of the positive forces and source energy and the organic ascension signals and all of that, the individuals and leaders that aren't blocking that, we impact, and we can help each other become better people. So if we're focusing positive energy that way, and we are in the unified field and we're stepping up to the plate by generating something beautiful into the collective that holds the vision and allows our creative energy to be encoded with those divine instructions, then we can literally open enough to transform, begin to shift and change in response to our support and positive energy. We're all helping each other become better people. We've all been dealing with indoctrination, past life traumas, some level of programming, and we can't put people in boxes or hold them to a character flaw, or else we're stunting their growth and we're stunting the planetary shift growth. So the beauty of supporting individuals like this without giving your power away is that you're removing them from that stigma that you're holding them to, and you're allowing them to become a better person as you're transforming yourself. Those that block it, though, those that want to put dark laws in place, that's a completely different species. But like the immune system that can wipe out a disease, the more we step into this unified field, there's nothing left for the parasites to feed on. And we recognize that, we're all participants. And so we have to be very careful where our energy goes and check our energy centers. If we're being thrown into that place of survival, externalizing everything and bringing it back to our center and just generating, the good energy, we'll notice, just like you said, see the synchronicities and notice the supportive elements and the things that are hiding in plain sight that show us the way, versus us being so locked in the fear and the anxiety of it all, that all we perceive and all we see is the threat and the doom and gloom that's hiding in plain sight, with all the symbolism and all the, you know, different things that are now finally being exposed. So we really got to check ourselves as creative, powerful beings, because if anything, the dark cycles of history has taught us to play real small and to put it all on a savior or somebody outside of us. And I think this is a major collective push to just really get our focused intent and our creative power in alignment with the great source energy that is absolutely just like the earth, encoded with human advancement on the highest of levels. So I just love that we're all kind of talking about that, because it really brings it back to the person taking more responsibility for what they're hooking into and what they're allowing to be generated from their being. And if it's hatred and doom and gloom, that's exactly what you're going to get. And you're only going to see things that reinforce it.
But that kind of leads me on to the next thing I'd love us all to discuss. And I think it'd be really, really beneficial for us to all go around and just share sort of tips for our listeners of how to navigate these energies, because obviously the people that are drawn to us are quite the awakened ones within their family and peer groups, and so they really, really are absorbing our messages, and they're really, really open to receive guidance from us. So I'd love us all just to go round and share some top tips of how best to stay calm, stabilized, in alignment as we navigate these world war energies, definitely paradigm shifting energies that we are all in. And so I think I'd like to just share something about that. And for myself, it's about always being in that vibration of service, of what can I do for someone else, always looking for ways to generate and to be kind and to so taking myself out into actually a place of generation, of how can I generate energy. And I find that for me, that keeps my vibration very, very high, and it stops me from getting like sucked into any fear-based sort of energies. Also, I really focus a lot on gratitude, of training my brain or reprogramming my brain to go on rampages of gratitude, knowing that massively affects my vibration, the thoughts that I allow into my consciousness and the thoughts that I indulge in. So I like to be the master of my consciousness by choosing thoughts to things to be grateful for. So then that stops me from getting pulled into that fear-based egoic narrative, and it keeps me in that position of the master self. So I'd love us all to just to go round and share some of our top tips. Magenta?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. I think my top three, though, because obviously I want everyone to speak, so I'll be as quick as possible. My top three would be, number one, get the diet right. So that is your physical body. You are not going to be able to remain calm and deal with this if you're eating the flesh of battery farmed animals with all the fear inside them and all the torture that they've gone through. That's going to go through your system, especially if you are empathic yourself. So really, really look at your diet and make it as plant-based as you possibly can. Number two, meditation, and that can be in many different forms: yoga nidra, self-hypnosis, guided meditations, or meditation without any sound, mantra meditations, anything that appeals to you. The third one would be try and connect with nature as much as you possibly can. Get bare feet on the ground if you can. If you're nowhere near nature, bring houseplants into the house, have crystals around you, have pictures of nature around you, meditate on nature, do that. Those three things, I mean, there are so many, but I think at this time, going through 2020, those three things have been my guiding light, really. And everything you said, obviously, living in surrender and connection, and and sleep as well. Sleep is so important, even if it means you're going to sleep every afternoon as well as in the evening. Like the Spanish do, have their siesta. But yeah, they'd be my top three: diet, meditation, nature.
That's brilliant. And it's sort of like, you know, we are shifting from carbon to crystalline as well. And whilst we're in this massive paradigm shift, like we are literally shifting in density. And it's so important that we rest when we need to, and we understand what the vessel's actually going through. And so we are going to be tired, and we are going to need to have quiet time. And I think there's so much of the conditioning is you know, to not do that, to really sort of like push against our bodies. But I think it's really, really important that everyone listens very, very deeply.
You know, cuddle your pet dog like Charlie's doing.
Oh,
That's wonderful for your heart to make that connection with your
yeah.
pet. He is so sweet.
I know, where's
Is
Archie?
she? I just love these little doggies in the
I
camera.
know.
Hi, Archie.
Yeah.
Oh, how cute.
Oh.
Laura, would you like to share some of your tips?
Yeah, I think just being really mindful. I mean, we really need to integrate our higher awareness into our physical lifestyle so that our physical lifestyle reflects back to us our spiritual path, which means the willingness to leave jobs that you don't resonate with, that don't really do a whole lot to help the world be a better place. Be willing to take those kind of risks, because when you step into your mission, there's a whole nother energetic that shows up that is part of a greater magical flow of synchronicities that will support you doing what your true calling is.
Mm-hmm.
Be willing to let go of toxic relationships or the things that really drain you energetically. You know, trying to convince something or somebody is something, you know, there needs to almost be a boundary. You can walk away and your energy isn't taken by that person, and you don't hold on to the frustration of what they choose to do with it. I almost look at it like you're in a parade throwing stuff out to the crowd. Of course, let's not choose candy, but like nice little healthy treats. But if you were to get off and pay attention to who's actually looking at it or eating it, or who's stuffing it in their pocket for next year, or who's stomping on it or throwing it and shaming it, then we're not moving forward. We're paying too much attention to what everybody's thinking and what they're doing with it, which can disrupt our flow. So I think it's just really important to just stay mindful and conscious and let every moment of your life and day be a greater investment into the greater good of yourself and humanity by making your way of life an outer expression of the truth of who you are. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, it will begin to, you know, heal our physical body. And if we can focus on just one little piece of just like, you know, service, like you said, Jen, service to humanity, where, you know, we see ourselves as the mother, father, and child, and we encourage people to not just, you know, think these things are outside of us. Oh, it's somebody else's kid or it's somebody else's problem. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to pay attention until it hits home. We need to stand up and recognize we're guardians, and we're playing a parental role as nurturers, as guardians, as protectors, and that we each, in our own small way, or even large ways, do something to contribute that nurturing energy, so that we can heal the broken heart and the trauma that's being held, and set the inner child free, which will help to bring to light and expose, you know, all the, you know, horrific abuses, and really build community so that we can build healing centers and utilize the land and pull our resources together so that we can reconstruct a society and communities that hold structures that can house the multidimensional, the spiritual, the benevolent, and our integrity and compassion, and not wait for anything else to do it, and recognize that we're the leaders. And the day that we invest a little bit more in it, eventually we'll step back and realize that we've built something huge, and we can step into these new structures and you know, and instead of fighting something, we're lifting something and raising something that will knock the rest down, because people will have a place to go. They won't feel so lost in making these transitions. They'll see, wow, I can join with them. I can talk to them. I can be myself. And just to make ourselves louder and more available on a community and local level, to encourage those that feel very stuck and very frightened, that there's a beautiful world that we're building that we can all embrace and all play an important and significant role in, where diversity and harmony is oneness, because we all have something huge to offer, instead of our differences being weaponized, because that's the divide and conquer tactic. So every day, every moment counts.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing, Laura. I think I'm gonna have to re-listen to that. That was so much. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you. What's your top tip for navigating these energies?
Well, there's two things that spring to mind. Number one is when people are asking questions and trying to understand the journey we're on, is not to go too much into detail, just to plant a seed and let them do the work. If you put it on them, they get lost and they get buried in it. Whereas I try and plant the seed by pointing out a simple fact that COVID-19 was downgraded to nothing more than the flu by the World Health Organization, the CDC, the American government, the British government, the Canadian government, by all the governments. And then if you start there from a moment of truth, then they will do their own research and they will enlighten themselves. If you try and enlighten them too quickly, it's a bit like putting too much light on a plant, it dies. So you have to do it gently. So that's one thing. And the second thing that I've fallen in love with is trolls. Because trolls don't have any identity. And if you come out, you can love them to death because they die very quickly when you love them.
That's completely genius, Charlie. Oh my God. Charlie Freak. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Charlie.
For the doggies. So great comments, everyone. Fantastic. Excellent gnosis being shared. That, the simple thing that if you go back, Charlie was mentioning the Aboriginals, just go back to nature. The land itself, hug a tree. The tree's alive. It has so much wisdom you couldn't possibly even imagine. You don't think it's alive. You don't think it can communicate with you, or you can communicate with it, but you can. There's two worlds. So the first thing that all the ancient cultures said, Bhagavad Gita says, the Quran, all of them say the same thing: know thyself. None of them say go to a church, give 10%, you're a worthless sinner, that you must listen to a priest or anything like that. Jesus never once said any of those words. But what he did say is that you're rich when you know thyself. And knowing thyself is the truth. So first thing is to know thyself. Second thing, out of knowing thyself comes the truth. So you can't go anywhere unless you know the truth. And the first truth that springs out of knowing thyself is that the world that we live in is the duality. Singularity with God in heaven before, falling down into this physical plane. You can't deny it. No one can deny it. There's an infinite amount of dualities, and they're all ruled by polar opposites. So if you don't accept these basic facts of our reality, then you're lost, and you're going to continue to remain lost until you accept the basic premise to our thing is a duality. Then it means that there's two worlds. Okay, so like Magenta and Laura, we're just giving some fantastic, and I mean this is top-notch minds that are telling you these things. So you have to treat both. So there's two worlds. We have 11:11. There's two temples: temple of the mind, temple of the body. Hardly anybody treats either with any respect. You're the pinnacle of God's creation. You have two temples. You're to worship in your temples. You can even, burn the sweet cannabosum as an incense to help you stay inside your temples. There's just a myriad of ways to do it. It's so beautiful. But everybody treats themselves like crap. You do. And it starts with your food. So diet, if you reverse these words, and this is what Charlie was talking about, it's all about the Q team, dark to light, dark to light. What they've done is reversed everything. Remember, Baal, which is the Phoenician god who's behind all of this, Baal is the god. What is he known for? Reversing everything 180 degrees. So that's this reality that we've lived in for 100 years, starting with, Einstein coming forward and going the Einstein route versus the Tesla route. We're now putting an end to the Einsteinian system, and we're about to embrace Nikola Tesla. And that has been the great crime 100 years ago, and we allowed it to happen. Tesla told the truth, and we're going to treat our condition via these Tesla waves. So that's the higher realm. There's two realms. There's the duality. There's two realms. You have to know truth. Know thyself. So you want to help yourself. Food. food, your diet in the physical realm. So then how do you treat the Tesla talked about, the higher realm, the blue sky? How do you treat that? So it all starts like, so Jen is saying there, and Jen was saying, and Magenta was saying all about meditation, you know, that's me, and virtually every moment, but we're talking like the basic things. So, and these are things that ultimately don't cost money. You don't need a manual. They're not hard to understand. Charlie said, you know, we've got to keep things simple. Then just keep things simple. Your food is the regulator of your physical temple. Your thoughts are the regulator of your mindful, as Laura said, your mindful temple. Your thoughts are determined by the breathing that you do. Fear keeps you in shallow breathing. Short of breath, short of thought, short of mind, short of God, short of wisdom, short of knowledge. That's how it works, short of memory. You can't ascend until you take big, deep breaths. And here's something I want to pass to everyone. You know how there's so many images of Buddha, and they show Buddha as this, you know, large person, and people are saying, boy, that Buddha must, you know, he must have loved cow burgers or something, because look at the size of that Buddha. You know, they say he's a vegetarian, but boy, he's a pretty big guy. No, because nobody takes the time to things of Buddha to you very simply. That's the reason that he's so big in his middle section. That's called a Buddha breath. That's how you're supposed to breathe. If you understand what a Buddha breath is, you're going to stay in the now. And remember what Charlie said, dark to light, dark to light. What does all of these messages that are constantly coming to me in various ways on our channel from whomever, the, you know, Q team, whomever, it's always reversals. You have to kind of flip things over. It's always dark to light, taking their darkness to light, flip things over. So look at some of these words. When we live in the now by breathing and then meditation, because you can't meditate unless you start breathing correctly, Buddha breath. So, but when we do that, when we start living in the now, we've won. Reverse the word. It's everywhere in your language. It's everywhere in your language. Take back language. When you live in the now, you've won. The game's over. And you see, that's exactly what Magenta was saying to you. Look at this from a different perspective. We're telling you that the war is already over. I did that podcast, that video, the takedown of the cabal from A to Z with Mark Devlin. That's over 2.5 million views worldwide now. A lot of people have seen that video. That is showing you, how do I know all of that information? I had help doing that video, right? I had a lot of help doing that video, because those are things, and some of the images I could never have found. So we're telling you, we're showing you that the war is over. Things have to allow themselves to play out. So you can choose to continue to be a victim, like everyone here is warning you not to, gnosis of this beautiful group of beautiful minds, and listen for a sec. And that is, we've won. And when you live in the now, when you still your mind, when you calm your breathing, Buddha breaths, deep breaths from the belly, from the deep belly, bring it all the way in and then let it all out. Because if you're breathing properly, you're going to see a big midsection. That's what happens when you breathe properly. That's a Buddha breath. Then you live in the now and you've won. When you've won, there's no room for fear. Fear is killing us. For 100 years, that's what they've done. What does Nikola Tesla teach? Truth, calm, stillness. What came through the Einstein theory of relativity, which ultimately came from the Jesuits, which is, you know, the Catholic Church, which again is the Venetians, which is Venetians. What came? Fear. So 100 years ago, we made our choice. We had a choice to go with Tesla, and we went with Einstein. And the rest, the proof is in the pudding. So it is simple, my friends. It is absolutely simple, but there are worlds. And both of these are temples of the Creator. Start treating them with respect. Treat yourself with respect. And that starts by knowing thyself.
I am absolutely blown away by all this information, and it's just so rich and deep. And yeah, our listeners are really going to be able to get their teeth into this. So before we hear from Liam, I just want to say another thing that that's really helped me it's like what you say, Charlie. It's about realizing that the present moment, like that is the ultimate destination for our consciousness, is to arrive home at the present moment, the 0 point field, where all timelines converge within the 0 point. And so if you can find a practice where you can train yourself to be present, to bring your awareness to the present moment, and have that focus, and just to train your brain to keep being present, because we can't really go into fear. Like when we're present, we can just deal with solutions. Like if something like is coming towards us, then we can deal with a solution. It's not necessarily fear. It's always, we go into fear when we think about the future or the past, we pontificate on the past. And it's always when stuff's out of our control. But if we are really, really committed to, you know, keeping our awareness in the present moment, then we're always going to be in control of whatever happens to us. So like, just realize that you might think you're searching for your twin flame, you might think you're searching for a guru, but actually you're searching for the present moment. Like, and if everyone could just realize that and just accept that, then so much fear and low vibrations will just dissipate from the planet. So I just want to just say that, and Liam, I'd love to hear what your top tips for navigating this, because you've been absolutely amazing throughout this whole COVID thing. You've been absolutely phenomenal. Stability.
Ridden the wave.
You have.
So I must have some good things to say. I feel like I actually seem to be in direct contact with them, but at the very least, you always know somebody that can spin negative, horrible information and put it in a positive light. And that any information that comes to us that seems really scary, there's a way of finding the positive perspective of it. Yeah, it's always there.
Like, for example, if you find out like a picture of a child that's got really horrifically abused, you can think, well, at least they're safe now, like twisting it. Or,
well, more like the whole reason why it came into your field in the first place.
Okay.
It's like, it's okay, like that child. Basically, that everybody makes their own choices. Yeah.
Okey-dokey.
And I thought when you mentioned about good old Adolf the other week, Charlie, look at you, and you're such a nice person, and it would be obviously it'd be so easy for my egoic mind to just think, oh, he's into Adolf, he must be this or that. But you just got to sit on it, haven't you? You've got to meditate on it. And then at the very least, it's quite interesting if you can inside yourself start to explore that this enemy you've been told your entire life isn't actually exactly what we've been told he is, then it's good for your own mind, isn't it? It's very healing.
So basically just go down some rabbit holes and do some research and literally find out what is going on.
A little bit, yeah. Or ask somebody.
That's a top tip. Is that it?
Deep breaths, obviously.
Yeah.
I always try and do deep breaths, and not to like beat yourself up if you catch yourself doing shallow breaths. And Charlie, again, you mentioned about, I don't know what you called it, cannabis. Something like that.
Cannabis' favorite sacrament, the incense of cannabism. It isn't meant to be toked until you're stoned out of your head. It's meant to be used as an incense. And the reason is because it keeps you in the temples. It keeps you in the temple. It keeps you, as Laura said, mindful. But of course, that's not how it's used today.
Can I ask, Charlie, can you use the incense you would buy in like the shops in Glastonbury? You know, the really good quality ones. Does that do the same thing?
Oh yeah, there are all sorts of natural herbs that are so beautiful. In Mexico here, we have, it just grows like a weed. It's called Herba Buena, which is the good herb. And I think in the United States they call it spearmint. Spearmint. Yeah. And if you've ever grown, Charlie maybe has some in his yard as well. It will heal anything, and it's perfect. Cook any, you shouldn't cook your foods, but if you're going to, that is an amazing herb to add to everything. And just to water, just plain water, just putting it into your water.
It's a very necessary part of a mojito.
Excellent. So I think, oh, sorry.
Last ones. Manifest yourself a divine beloved, and it's not all illusion. I think a lot of men fall into thinking that it's all like some big like program and that they're stuck in it. But if you can keep up the belief that there's a divine beloved on the other side waiting for you, then you'll be happy. And then also learn to think like a white hat and a black hat, which the black hats can't do. Black hats can only think like black hats because they don't know what love is. But you know both. So you can be loving, but you can also be devious like a black hat. So you can preempt what's going to happen in the future and not be too scared.
There you go, guys. So thank you, Liam. That's brilliant. And they're amazing responses. So I think the last question that I'm just going to put to you all, and it's basically 2 questions. And I asked my community if they had any questions for us. And so we'll sort of kind of make it concise as possible. But so the first question is about how to navigate fallouts with family members because of belief systems and, you know, having like awake family members, asleep family members. They would love to know some top tips from us guys about how to navigate that, and also how to navigate the education system. I've been contacted by quite a lot of teachers that are so distressed about the current situation, but they don't want to lose their jobs. They want to stay within the education sleeper cells that are going to activate within that system. So I'd love for us to just speak about that, because it's so important for so many people, like this whole education thing, like what's going on with the education. So Magenta, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. The family fallout. Yeah, I've had lots of questions about that as well. And I have addressed this. I think what Charlie Ward said about when you want to get into that kind of discussion, say something really small when you know that those people are not understanding of this, or like Charlie Freak says, understanding of this. They don't have that awareness. So I do the same as Charlie Ward. I will say, hey, look at this. COVID was downgraded from a serious illness with high mortality rate and extremely contagious, and it's now been downgraded into not those things. So why are we doing all this? And let the conversation move from there. But obviously it's very difficult, and obviously you've got a karmic thing playing out there as well. So it is really, I mean, if you've got family members attacking you repeatedly, no matter how much you're trying to stay in love and compassion towards those family members, you might have to make a decision to take a step back and just, you know, not be in their space for a while. It doesn't mean you don't love them, but you can't be around anyone that's dragging you down all the time and attacking you, even if it's someone you love. I think love and compassion is the best way, and say things like, look, you know, we're mother and daughter. That has to transcend the fact that I want Trump to win and you want Biden to win. So why don't we just, you know, why don't we just not talk about these subjects? I know I'm in that situation, I'm afraid, with one of my children. I've got 5, and one of them is sort of over the other side. And at the end of the day, you know, I love my daughter, and we do talk, and we will share our opinions. And she's free. She's an adult. She, you know, she's been watching mainstream. What can I do? And I'm sure many starseeds are in that situation. Love and compassion has to come first with that. Your second question about the education system is a really good question. And I think really, again, this has got to play out. People do not realize that the education system's been controlled for years and years and years. And it has to play out. This awareness has got to come to people's minds by seeing the problems, by understanding that, hey, why are the government doing this? Why are the government doing that? This doesn't make sense to me. This isn't about healing. This isn't about education. This isn't about children's safety. It's the opposite. Why? So this has to play out. What I would say to an aware family member, an aware parent, seriously consider, is school where you want to send your beloved child right now? In my opinion, school is no longer a safe place, if it ever was, but it certainly isn't now. Home education is thriving. And I can tell you that here in the UK, we're going to have the biggest home education movement that we've ever seen within the next 8 weeks. Lots of parents are ready to make that step. And what I would say to parents, I don't know the law in the other countries, but in the United Kingdom, there is an article right on back to school. No matter what social distancing measures are in place, even if they have to wear masks, you have to send them, and if you don't, you will be fined. This is not true. You will only be fined if your child is registered with the school. It's very simple to deregister your child. You just write a letter, and then you take personal responsibility for their education. And as long as you say education otherwise than at school, and you get that wording in, and the charity education otherwise will help you, you can deregister your child, and you do not have to send them to school, and they cannot fine you for failing to ensure regular attendance at school because your child is not registered at that school. Then you take responsibility for their education, like you have been doing since March when the school's closed. Just carry on doing what you are doing. Do you want to keep your child safe? So from the parents' point of view, I don't like giving advice to anyone, but all I can say is if they were my children, they would not be going back to a school. Now, I would consider the Rudolf Steiner system. They are more open to the whole sort of social distancing thing. Get together with other parents. I mean, the home education movement is thriving. They have groups, they have lessons, they have trips out, story time. I mean, everything. It's wonderful. I did actually home educate my 2 youngest, so I actually know the system. But I don't feel school is a safe place at this point. The education system, like the financial system, like all the other systems, has to change. It has to change from the inside. And what's coming over the next couple of months, 3 months, maybe longer, in the school system, there's a massive shake-up. I mean, there is a restructuring in that system, and it's not going to be easy for many parents. For the teachers, I mean, there are lots of really loving, wonderful teachers who are dedicated to their job. So they're the people that can make the changes. They're the people that can stand up and say, this isn't right. I don't want to do this anymore. Are you going to acquiesce to the system and do things that your heart is telling you is wrong? Are you going to say to that little 5-year-old child, don't stand any closer to your best whisper in your best friend's ear? No, you can't give your best friend a hug. Are you going to do that? So I think what I would say to the teachers is go and research what's going on, find out the truth, listen to everyone here, and then decide, is this a system that you want to stay in as it is? Or are you prepared to stand up and make changes? Are you prepared to leave this system and create a new one? Because that's what's going to happen. So really good questions, Jen.
That's absolutely amazing, Magenta. That was so brilliant. It's going to give so much clarity to so many people. Thank you so much. And it just reminds me of a tip that I learned from a group of parents. They basically hooked up with one of the teachers in the school who was so devastated with all the new rules that they're then now clubbing together to pay her to be their home educator. And I think things like that are going to happen. There's going to be rebellions from the parents together. I'm actually getting goosebumps because if you think about it, that's so beautiful for the children, because it's going to be much more child-led, isn't it? They're going to be learning what they want to learn, what they're interested in, which is going to be the saviour of education, in my humble opinion. Should we go? We'll go to Laura. I'm sure you've got amazing things to say.
I love what everybody's sharing. It's just, yes. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, I mean, it's no doubt that star seeds are targeted, and it's not like I'm putting them in a separate group, because everybody's got the potential to reach these, greater levels of awareness. We have dormant galactic chakras that need to be opened, and dormant strands of DNA that need to be activated. Those things aren't taught in school. So there needs to be just that extra education that we give our children based in what's been lost to us. And a lot of it's going to come from listening to them and learning from them. And I was going to say, and so I'm right there with you. The children need to guide the process. and help us to, understand what their needs are. And so there's going to be two different types of situations. Some people will be able to band together, do homeschooling, build community, and some will really feel like their hands are tied, but it's going to be a lot easier because the new paradigm, leadership needs to be leading by example. So the more they see that others are doing it, it'll pull them out of a feeling of, isolation or fear. And people just need to, take that stand. So if they do have to go into the school systems, it's just very important that the home environment is incredibly healthy and incredibly supportive and incredibly educational, not so much left brain educational, but opening up the creative channels. Really like holding a big ear to listen to just, what your child is thinking to be, the ultimate guide to their greater potential. And when there's assignments about, writing about things, compromise the self, not compromise your children or be in fear, because some parents are like, well, you have to do it because that's just the way it is. You're going to have to answer to this outer authority, and to slowly break down that false authority structure with just the divine innocence of the freedom to just fully be yourself and do it from a place of love, not fear. Because when we feel like we're fighting something, there's that fear that pulls us into duality of success or failure, victory or loss. And we just have to hold truth, because truth is a frequency that stands on its own, and it inspires people and it activates people, and it doesn't need to fight. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need to try and win somebody over. It leads by example. And it's something that we can all embody and generate, truth with a frequency of love. So that goes into conversations with family. And man, it's been quite a journey. God knows how many times the phone was hung up in just a bad conversation with family members. And it was just like, and over the year, I let it really get to me, because it's like, wow, I can't believe I'm being silenced or ignored. And I'm not going to name which family members, because it certainly wasn't all of them. They saw how much that broke me, and it almost validated what their belief was, to see me like suffer over their inability to support what I was doing. And then I just cut myself off from it, not on a heart level, but I said, I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to thrive, because this is my passion, this is my mission, and this to me is a frequency of truth that is helping me to heal. I got to pull the rest of myself back from this and allow this energy to flow for me, regardless of what they think. And then when they saw me thriving and actually doing well with it, they started to get curious and they started to get interested, because they no longer were holding me hostage to their beliefs that was making me, sad, because, all of us really want our friends and family to, understand. And it's not about conforming or you have to see it my way. It's about having healthy communication where everybody's opening up a forum of love and respect to be able to share information, thought forms, without it turning into belittling or you're crazy or all these negative words that are very discouraging. And that's what we see with trigger events when we hear white privilege or racist or white silence is violence. It's like, these are all words that get us all like, what? And defensive and almost like angry. So we have to cut ourselves off from those kind of conversations and shield ourselves from it, do what we know is important for us. And we'll feel that we'll feel that connection on a frequency level that will help us to regenerate and feel very encouraged. But we got to be very careful of those kind of conversations and set the space in advance. Create a sacred space. If you want to sit down and talk to family members, everybody prepare yourself before we all sit down that we're going to come to this meeting or this conversation with love and respect. We're going to put our differences aside, be very careful of the way we communicate, because we're in a huge growth period connected to our throat chakra. We can say words to each other that lift each other up, uplift us, and open our hearts and minds. It's like warming up the muscles before you do deep tissue. You will kill the plant. So creating a sacred space for everybody to come together and have these more mature conversations so everybody can be heard, information can be shared, and everybody's, really able to hold their own space. The type of, shifts can happen are huge, because if we communicate from defensiveness or fear, not that we're fear-based, but that you need to know this or the need to overly red pill, we're not in a frequency of truth, and our heart's not open enough to be able to handle the debate or the trigger words that might come our way. So I think the more solid we are, the more confident we are in it, the more we lead by example and just live the path and just, plant the seeds where necessary, the next conversation can be about watering that seed and tending to that seed without putting too much pressure on it, knowing that that person's slowly going to get there, but it can only be nurtured through the sun rays of our heart and our compassion and our ability to break the barriers, and even tears might flow, which water the seed, so that we can really be genuine and real and transparent. Because a lot of times we act out our wounds, and we have sub-personalities that act out the wounds. But if we can just get into our heart and just really like open up a sacred space where everybody's in agreement, that vulnerability and that that true authentic sharing can help people like first bond on a heart level to make room for sorting out information without the threat of it being about political parties or being rebellious or challenging the system. And it can really be like, wow, okay, the priority for a lot of us is about the children. It's about humanity. It's about human rights. It's about these basic principles that we all deserve to stand strong for. And we can bypass the entanglement of all these different trigger words and all these different labels that are put in front of our belief systems, and drop those labels so that we can really have a soul to soul connection. And once that's established, station for further conversations to be very fruitful.
That's brilliant, Laura. God, there's such brilliant advice, isn't there? Yeah, I think a lot of us are going to take that on board, definitely, because I don't know anyone that hasn't really fallen out with any family members. I have, unfortunately, well, they've fallen out with me. So we would love to hear from Charlie Ward.
Well, the first thing that I sort of smiled there when I heard it. Magenta, you've got 5 children, and one of them disagrees with you. You've got 4 others. It's time to empower your children, to let them do the work for you. Listening to mummy shouting all day long is like you've got 4 other kids who can do it all for you. Just keep it simple, you know. They're there to do it, and if they hear it from a sibling, it's so much easier than mummy. We all know that, you know, mummies and daddies are there to tell us off. It comes from somebody, a sibling or somebody like that, it's so much easier to absorb. One of the points that is very interesting, that I'm very blessed. The school that Justin goes to, the headmaster and I get on really well. And he's been listening to me an awful lot, and he's opened up a lot, and he's aware of what's going on. The one thing as you move from darkness into light is not to bring darkness with you. We're in a situation right now where we don't agree with the laws, we don't agree with the rules. The first thing I did was get myself a little inhaler, which meant that technically I didn't need to wear a mask. So it's a visual. Second of all, I got a letter from my doctor and signed, saying that it was dangerous for me to wear a mask. I had it approved with the police, with the Guardia Civil, and with customs. So it's been approved by all the authorities. Rather than get into confrontations, I've learned if you get into confrontation, you're not taking them with you, you're pushing them away. And I'm trying to attract people to the truth rather than force people to the truth. And with the family, as I said, when you're talking about other children, Justin does all my hard work for me. He comes to me, he asks me the questions, he goes out and he puts it in his own language. For some reason, they don't get it from me, they get it from him, because he's talking their language. And sometimes I've had to learn to step back. With the headmaster, it was a different story, because I'm an Ipswich supporter and he's a Norwich supporter. So we have fun anyway. You know, for Charlie and for Laura, this is 2 teams close together in the country that hate each other's guts. You know, it's good friendly banter. So we've always had that relationship. But when this started to happen, he called me into his office when they closed the school down. And I've been in there 4 or 5 times and just sat with him and talked with him about what's happening. And but he just doesn't know how to address it with the other teachers, because the other teachers have obviously been educated in university and they're very, very blocked. Because the educational system, it's been so left-wing biased. So it's bit by bit. It's like building a wall, brick by brick. And with the family members, if you've got family, a younger family who can help educate the other family, then empower the family to do it for you. I have a daughter who disagrees with everything I say, everything. And then I try and encourage her with little bit. She's gone, Dad, I'm not even interested in politics. I'm not interested in that. I said, this is your future. Not interested. I'm just going to get on with my life. Nothing I can do with that. They're like, I'm a father. I'm a sponge. I'm there if you need me. That's it. I can't force myself. She's 37 years old. She's still my little baby girl. At 37 years old, and she'll always be my little baby girl. But you can't force yourself. I mean, my job is to give them advice. What they do with that advice is up to them. And to try and just be there for them without forcing myself on them. With my wife, I've been blessed. She thought I was a nutcase to start with. She still thinks I'm a nutcase, but she agrees with me.
That's brilliant, Charlie. Yeah, no, I think that's so good. Like, enroll other people to plant the seeds for you. Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure some people are going to take that on board. Yeah, amazing. So, Charlie Freak.
First off, Magenta was saying about somebody in her household is actually considering voting for Joe Biden. I have like a 7-minute video on my channel. If you haven't seen it, watch it, and just ask somebody as a rite of passage. Just 7 minutes, and you'll enjoy it. If anybody votes for Joe Biden after watching Joe Biden in his own words, then whatever, I guess. But that would be a good recommendation to show them that video. It's 7. And so homeschooling, I think Charlie Ward would know this very much as well. And the comms have all been there from Donald Trump. He has been saying this powerfully. The money will go to where sound education is taking place. If that is in the home, that's where the money will go. Believe me, he has made that clear. And what are we finding out about these teacher unions in the United States? I can't speak to elsewhere, but these are some of the biggest demon cults. Like there's a group I was saying earlier in New Orleans that are vampires. This is a cult of teachers in New Orleans that are vampires that have been taking kids in collusion with schools for their blood. So and these Antifa riders are largely in many of the urban cities are teachers. So there's something drastically wrong. President Trump has said that the money will go. And so, and in terms of education, it has to change 180 degrees. It does. It has to change 100 because what's being taught in schools right now, I'm sorry, it's not even whole truth. Like teaching about electricity and stuff. Magnetism is a million times. It's probably a lot more than a million times more powerful than electricity. Why are we just teaching about electricity? Why is there you can't get a degree in magnetism, and it's everything. And it's just going to lead me to my last point here today. So many people talk about that they recognize that Nikola Tesla said, if you understand 3, 6, and 9, then you can understand the secrets to the universe. 3, 6, and 9, just 3 letters. It relates to vortex mathematics, where 3, 6, and 9 are the only 3 constants in vortex. There's a reason for that, but it transcends mathematics and it transcends that type of mathematics. These are universal constants. So we were talking earlier about, like our own DNA, and there's so much, Laura was saying, there's so much of our DNA that is shut off. And of course, what does the mainstream tell the average person that has no time for any of this? Like Charlie, but I don't really care. So they give them a term, and it's called junk DNA. Well, if it's junk DNA, I don't really need it, and that just forget about it. But you see, everything is what the Q movement and Trump are doing. Everything is encoded. That is the creation by the creator. He just loves these little puzzles. And it's because it's a great way for us to learn, because once we decode it for ourselves, you'll never, ever, ever forget it. And you'll feel good about yourself because you've achieved something. So it's the great reveal. That's part of this great awakening, is this great reveal. And Trump in his speeches, doing this all the time. It's always alerting you to start using the frontal lobe, Sherlock Holmes' brain, and start earning your freedom by decoding things for yourself. So junk DNA, Josh X and I talk about this all the time, and it's absolutely the truth. And how do we know? We've read ancient cultures, and that's what they all talked about. Junk DNA is the brilliant DNA within us. It's inactive, encoded. You have to decode it. Guess what? Electricity isn't decoding all of this phenomenal DNA. It's turned off because it's not resonating with the light out there. EL light. EL is the outer light. You need the inner light. You need the inner light to shine. That is the Kundalini rising. That is God's light. Photons. Photons. Everything is photons. Photonic light is magnetic light. Magnetism, which is a million times more powerful than electricity. Well, what do you think is going to start switching on suddenly within you? All of this DNA. And then one morning you just wake up and you go, oh my goodness. It's like I just put the helmet of knowledge on. I know the answers to all things. It's unbelievable. Yeah, because they switched the Tesla tower on 13 miles down the road from your house. These frequencies of magnetism are all naturally. This is what Tesla shows you. If you follow his actual teachings on 3, 6, and 9, apply the 3, 6, and the 9. The natural occurrence of this is a frequency of 9. Every level 9. So all these levels of vibration that you go from 1 to 16 through the development of your frequencies. There are 16 frequencies, and as you go through them, they're all resonating in 9. When you look at electricity, they start to climb high in numbers, and then as you get higher, they all drop right back down low again. It's discordant. It's discordant, like electrical waves. Temporal waves are discordant as well. So magnetism is everything. When we get the right light going within us and from out there with these Tesla towers, it's going to literally, and I mean this, literally turn on your DNA. And you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to go, wow, I know a lot more stuff I did when I went to sleep, because parts of you are now wakening up. And that's with you today from about Donald Trump. That's why he does what he does, because what Donald Trump wants you to do is for you to be the leaders of this revolution. And to do that, you have to awaken yourself, and that's awakening inside yourself. And that is decoding of the encoding. That's why they make it all encoded, and that's why it just seems so complicated and difficult and stuff. But if you begin to decode, your DNA will turn on. When your DNA turns on, the things that you had no idea suddenly are just commonplace. Of course you know that. Of course you know that. Of course you know that. Of course you don't kill animals. Of course you don't kill animals. Of course you don't eat death to have life. That's kind of commonsensical.
Amazing as ever, Charlie. There's just so much richness in depth to everything that you say, and I'm sure all of us are going to go back and listen to all of it. This has been such a brilliant show. I mean, it really, really has. And I will say one thing before closing up. And a woman, a mother, came up on my news feed, and she said, she's like, guys, I've got to tell you this. My son has signed up for this. He's a 5th grader. That means he's 10, and he signed up for this Zoom teaching. And basically, his class got hacked. His Zoom meeting got hacked, and these 3 men hacked his classroom and started sending all these pornographic images. So like, I think people need to be aware, and there's all this stuff going on where they're trying to get the parents to sign these waivers that they're not going to sit in on their children's Zooms. I would never do that. I would no way on God's earth sign a form to say that I'm not going to listen to what my child is going to receive or experience. So hopefully we can all be aware of that, and be very, very mindful when we do let our kids, go into these Zoom rooms and stuff like that. This stuff is happening, and children are being targeted. It's so obvious that children are the main target with this last little sort of like fallout of the deep state as it's kind of like crumbling. The children are definitely targeted, and I just think we just need to keep our children really close and do not take your eyes off them, especially in like states like Arizona, Ohio, something like 1,000 children have, I read like 1,000 children have gone missing this month in Ohio. Like, this is it. Just don't take your eyes off your kids. Like, everyone, just keep your eyes on your kids. And also be very, very careful. Like, don't just let your kids be looked after by boyfriends that you've just met, or uncles that you're not sure about. Like, we really, really need to address this sexual abuse issue. And like, obviously we've got the Trump administration are dealing with it, the mass scale of the trafficking, but it has to, we have to have to make changes in how we're running our life and how we're looking after children. So I know that because my mum was abused, and so she was always like really, really vigilant about who I was allowed to spend time with, and that protected me. I was never ever abused, and I think everyone needs to apply that level of protection to their children. So that's the final thing I would like to say. And I just want to, just before we go, I just want to let everyone know, is there anything that you're promoting at the moment, like Magenta? Is there a book that you're writing? Is there anything that you'd like to let everyone know about?
Well, I've been writing. Oh, I'm getting some feedback here at the moment. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I've been writing a book for a couple of years. And I've stopped, and then something else has come to me, and then I've written another smaller one, and then I've gone back to the bigger book. And obviously when COVID been there, so I've put the book to one side, and I've been focusing on bringing out information that was coming through regarding that. So I don't know if I intend to go back to the other book, but a lot of the information in there, I wonder if it's relevant anymore, because by the time I'll be ready to produce the book, everything in there is like won't be true anymore. It will all have changed. So I'm not sure what I'll do with that information. Actually, we'll see. So right now, I just wanted to just say to Charlie Freak, who said about my daughter, yeah, I'll look out that video you suggested, but it's not really too much of a problem because obviously we can't vote anyway, being in the UK. So it's not as if she's actually genuinely going to vote for the Democrats. And it's interesting to bring that up, because I do know, hopefully not too many, but I am hearing stories from people that there are people out there that are saying, and yet they're saying the complete opposite to all of us, and that Trump is part of the cabal. And it's, you know, I mean, what one psychic said, Kamala will be the president. And, you know, I've asked the Nine and I've said, why are these individuals getting this information? Why, when they, you know, they're psychic? And I've looked at them and thought, well, yeah, there's some psychic stuff there. And the Nine have said that within the fourth dimension, there's all these false trapping systems, all these false screens, and you have to know how to move above them or through them, navigate through them to get to, because when you look at something psychically, remote view, whatever you're doing, you need to move through those layers. You can get to the point where you can see straight away, but there's false screens on everything. So yeah, that's just an interesting point, how opposite to us. But I think the majority of those who are in an esoteric presentation or who are working as a truther or light worker or whatever word you want to use, I think that the majority of us are fully aware that Trump is the person we need to vote for if we can actually vote. And even if we're not in the US, we can vote energetically.
That's amazing. Yes, well, he'll definitely be getting my energetic vote and your energetic vote. So so that's brilliant, Magenta. And so the thing that I'm organising is the 9/9 completion ceremony, and I'd love as many people to get involved as possible, because we're going to be working with the higher self of the first responders, who all those people that are going into the deep underground military bases and are pulling out the children and are having to face the most horrific scenes. And so we're going to be focusing on sending very, very deep angelic support to the first responders. So I'll put all the links to book onto that with the video. But you've got something going on, haven't you?
Yes, I have a book launch. It's a collaboration with a quite a huge number of people. I think around 15 other authors.
Wow.
And if you go to my Facebook page, the cover photo, you'll see more information about it. And if you click onto the picture, you'll see the link, which is my affiliate link, and you can sign up for the book launch. And it's called Evolutionary Healer Virtual Summit. The book is Evolutionary Healer. And then this weekend, August 29th, I have a all-day event with John D'Souza, former FBI John D'Souza, and Dr. Michael Sala. And it's an all-day event. That information I have on YouTube. It's a video that I did maybe 2 weeks ago. You can find it, and you'll see all the links underneath that. I need to update my website. But that's this weekend. And then, yeah, just the Patreon with Dark to Light Show with David Rodriguez, if we could put the links there. And my website's cosmicgaia.org.
Definitely the links, and I'll put them on the video. And I'm going to stop recording now. So just thank you all so much for being part of this roundtable. It's been such a beautiful alchemy and such deep, rich knowledge for our listeners. So I'm going to stop recording. So thank you all so much. We love you.
Who's fed up of being a slave? An angelic human, free from the illusion of confusion.
Beloveds, greetings of the Most High. We come forward in this moment of your time with a powerful message heralding great victory to the forces of light. There are so many cosmic occurrences happening at the moment, and as ever, we have so much to share with you, ever-evolving humanity. Once a time when our Milky Way was twinned with the star system of Andromeda, but due to the free will experiment eons ago, a dramatic split was allowed to occur, whereby many planets and entities in our solar system were allowed to become part of a fallen angelic system. This experiment was allowed to take place for the last 26,000 years, but as all long count calendars consistently depicted, all of the ancient calendars ended at this window of our time. These long count calendars were created by our galactic star brethren, who in days gone by have coexisted on this earthly plane alongside humanity, and who passed on information regarding advanced technologies and the secrets of consciousness. The Dogon tribe in Africa have recorded accurate depictions of the African tribe's connection with our Syrian brothers and sisters. The ancient ones knew that around this particular era and the whole entire solar system would come into alignment with the heart of our galactic sun that is known as Alcyon, that resides in the constellation of Pleiades. And in this alignment, this will activate a solar flash or a solar pulse event, which would be experienced by the entire consciousness of the universe as an intense tsunami of God's love, grace, and all-pervading presence. It was known that in this dispensation, this would reactivate all of humanity's dormant DNA codes, switching on the Christ Sophia Divine Union codons that have been stored in the deepest core of humanity's consciousness. It was known that this event would literally realign and unlock the energetics at the core of our Milky Way that had been previously forces, and this momentum would enable the reunion of our Milky Way with the star system of Andromeda, thus fully completing this current 26,000-year free will cycle. We have arrived, dear ones, to the morning of the age of Aquarius. We really and truly did it. We won the battle of light and dark. There was never any other option except victory to the light. Never before in the history of this earth or indeed this entire galactic region, have we witnessed such epic transformation of an entire species who are transforming from carbon-based to crystalline-based. Many of you will be noticing shifts in your physical appearance of late, and you will be noticing that you are appearing younger and that the aging process has definitely stopped for many of you. It is very powerful for you to observe these shifts as it empowers these timelines of increased transformation. The greatest way you can assist your human vessels with this shift from carbon to crystalline is to deeply embrace consciousness. Your heart consciousness holds the key to fifth dimensional consciousness, which is the gateway to full multidimensional consciousness. The way to stop the aging process is to stop believing in the false limited narrative of the egoic consciousness, which perpetually seeks to keep you separated from yourself and from others. This egoic consciousness would have you believe that you are unsafe and that it is imperative for you to stay in your individualized form and resist the merge with your divine counterpart, your eternal self, and all that is. Dearest ones, please know we are witnessing in this ascension window the most profuse number of divine union partnerships ever to have graced the earth. This reunification trajectory will last up to the September equinox and will include the 9/9 completion portal date. Please use this time, dearest ones, to prepare. You can do this most efficiently by stating clearly to the universe what you will and will not accept. Have vigilant boundaries and stick to them relentlessly, knowing that your higher self will test you. And for those of you who pass the test and who refuse to accept any pathetic, unsatisfactory crumbs from the universe, please know that you will encounter your divine counterpart in this ascension window. For many of you, this person will not be the person who you thought it was, as for many, that person who you believe is your twin has actually been preparing you to come into union with your God-chosen mate. Dearest brothers and sisters, we would like to take this opportunity to invite you to come and take part in the 9/9 completion ceremony that will be taking place on the 9th of September at 8:08 p.m. UK time on that date. In this ceremony, we will be working with the highest self who have signed up on a soul level to witness the serious atrocities that have been inflicted upon the stolen and trafficked children, particularly in the deep underground military bases, the DUMBs. We will be working with the highest forces of angelic light to offer them strength, courage, bravery, and the tenacity to deal with the potential PTSD that could potentially harm many of these officers for life. We are also being guided to cleanse the earthly plane's collective pineal gland as a preparatory prerequisite for the ensuing ascension of humanity. And we are also being guided to cleanse and upgrade all of our own personal pineal glands. Please note that this is a highly auspicious ceremony to be involved in, and everybody who takes part will receive a miraculous upgrade by taking part in this powerful work. The work completion ceremony is designed to specifically assist us in this monumental shift from carbon to crystalline based. We are being guided to work with highly advanced Arcturian ascension technology that communicates specifically to humanity's crystalline DNA. This is a highly auspicious ceremony to be invited to take part in, and will assist you in unfathomable ways in keeping your vibration at an extremely high and stabilized level. You will also serve many of your brothers and sisters by coming forward to take part in this transmission, as you will be a true template holder of the Ascension Vessel of Light. Please know that this sacred work is offered on an energetic exchange basis in order to ensure your presence and commitment to showing up for this level of planetary and personal work. Please see the link below. Transmission. In love and eternal light, Gen G and the White Wolf Tribe.